Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our edition of the Benchwarmer Sports podcast. Raffi here, joined by Alex. Alex, always a pleasure to have you back on. Hockey season is underway. The NHL season has begun. We have finally made it after so many long months. So, without further ado, I think we just got to get into it. But when doing this podcast, I was lacking a little bit on my video on NHL videos. I was like, you know what? Let's do a podcast. I know a guy. Now here's a guy, as Chris Collinsworth would say, who knows a
Now
thing or two
here's a
about puck.
guy.
So, Alex, we'll distract you a little bit from the Yankees losing at the moment and get into your more comfortable realm, the NHL verse. Alex, before we get into things, how are you? How are things?
Could be better. I mean, yeah, you're right. Yankees are about to lose, but how's it going again? He goes choke, Cubs choke. What a joke! I mean, that kind of aligns properly with Yankees lose. So I mean,
Let the
it
record
ties
show the
right in.
Cubs did, as of the recording of this podcast, Wednesday, October 8th at 8:40 Central Time, the Cubs did in fact win today to extend their season, which cannot be said in all likelihood about the New York Yankees, or definitively won't be. But anyways, this is an MLB playoff podcast. We did that last week. This week is now NHL season predictions. So, Alex, there's been a lot that's happened this past offseason, a lot that's gone on the past week, really. We've seen a lot of big names who have already taken their name off of this upcoming free agency class. Feels like every year we get to we look at the next free agency class and say, oh my gosh, there's this guy, this guy, this guy. McDavid's locked up now for 2 years. Kaprizov's locked up, got a bag. Eichel and Kyle Connor earlier today got extended. So for me as a Blackhawks fan, this is terrible. I was really hoping that someone of that caliber would hit the open market next year, but it really doesn't look like that's going to happen. And unfortunately, it seems like we always get roped into the, oh my gosh, this free agency class is going to be awesome for the top player to be like Jack Ross. Like, no offense to him, but he's no Kyle Connor or Connor McDavid.
Let me just add by saying this: Connor McDavid is. If you listen to the Steve Dangle podcast, I know you don't like them much, but if you listen to that podcast, Steve Dangle is something that I completely agree with. They should build a statue for Connor McDavid today. Today, he will be the first person to play with a statue outside of his own arena. That man is the most team friendly winner. I want everything possible to make this team win a Stanley Cup, and they will win a Stanley Cup eventually, with him there or not. But he is so team friendly, and I just want to start by saying, man's a god. McDavid's a god. He'll always be a god. Jesus Christ.
For once, when it's crazy because people say, "Oh, he did it. He took a deal like Sidney Crosby did." Sidney Crosby did not take it. That was a very risky contract when Sidney Crosby signed for $8.7 million for 15 years.
10 years.
With all the times he got concussed before signing that contract, a lot of Sidney Crosby was not the Sidney Crosby we know now, and even the Sidney Crosby of the mid 2010s that he was when he initially signed that deal. So this is just Connor McDavid saying, "I'm taking a discount. You better put some pieces together." They just they bring back Jake Wallman on a 7x7, which is a little rich, but okay. And then they're already re-signing Matthias Ekholm, $4 million for 3 years. He's 34, but I mean, at $4 million, it's hard to do much better than $4 million for a guy like Matthias Ekholm was a no doubt about top four defenseman. But enough about the offseason, because we'll be discussing the offseason anyways in our predictions. Let's dive right in, and we'll start off with my team's division, the Central Division. So we'll just go division by division, and then we'll lead into the Stanley Cup Finals, who we have as our Stanley Cup Finals winner. So before we get into that, obviously, as I said, we'll start off with the Central. So for me personally, I have Dallas winning the Central, followed by Colorado, Winnipeg being the top three in the Central. My two wildcard teams both come in the Central Division. I have Utah and Minnesota, and then I have St. Louis and Nashville just missing out, and then Chicago in last place, but with 75 points. I do expect the Blackhawks to be better this year. They already looked pretty decent in periods 2 and 3 last night when they played the Florida Panthers after 10 minutes of, I don't know what happened. They just forgot how to play hockey, but I do expect the Blackhawks to take another step this year. Frank Nazar is my GOAT, along with Connor Bedard. So I expect the Blackhawks to take a step. I expect the Predators to bounce back, but not get back into the playoffs. And then I think this is the year that we see Utah really take that step into playoff contention. We really saw last year that the fact that they didn't have to think about relocation, it really helped them. They took a step. And right now you add JJ Peterka. Yes, you lose Kesselring in that trade, which does you lose a little bit of top four defensive help there, but I think Utah is well oiled and will make the playoffs this year.
I mean, yeah, there are a couple things I'm going to switch around there, but I really like this division. It's a really strong division. People always say, "Oh, there's the Blackhawks, there's the Predators, there's the Blues. They're really like weird, wild cardish kind of teams." This division is one of, if not the strongest divisions out there right now. There is the top three teams in this division can easily be one, two, three in the NHL, without a doubt. In saying that, I definitely see a world where the Stars finish first. Stars first, Avalanche second, Winnipeg third, and then my two wildcard teams are actually going to be the Wild and the Blues. So it'll be Wild fourth, Blues fifth. Mammoth just missing out. I think they're going to be the sixth, the odd man out of those three, and then the Predators and the Blackhawks. And honestly, you can pretty much interchange the Blues and the Mammoth. It's just I think the Blues have a more complete roster. They have a little more depth. I think they have a defensive core that is bigger and a lot more playoff ready per se. And I just like the fact that they have two guys, Dalibor Dvorsky and Jimmy Slinger, are going to play insane roles this year in the top nine, top six, even maybe. But the one team that by the way, I'm gonna say this right now, automatically, I feel like the winner of this division is going to win the President's Trophy. And I think the Dallas Stars are winning the division, so I think they'll be my President's Trophy pick as well. I'm not going a little too far ahead, but they are my one of my favorite teams to watch. If whenever there's a game on, I always watch one of their games, and it's always a sight for sore eyes. It's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely see the Central as a couple tiers where you have your tier one teams, which is the Stars, Avalanche, and Jets. You have your tier two, which is teams that are going to be hovering around that wild card, as both of us have. Most of these teams are, some of these teams will be in the wild card, and likely one of these three teams out of Utah, Minnesota, St. Louis will likely miss out. But Utah, Minnesota, St. Louis is all in that next tier of teams that will be fighting for a wild card spot. We'll get into the Pacific next up, but I really do think it's likely going to come down to those three teams and a fourth team that I'll be discussing shortly. And then you have your kind of bottom feeders here, which is the Predators and Blackhawks. Again, the Predators got off to such a poor start last year. I just can't imagine that they're going to be as bad as they were last year. So I do expect them to bounce back, just not get into exactly the playoff mix. Jets, I think will be interesting. They got off to a amazing start last year, barely lost, but you lose a really solid player, Nikolai Ehlers, who had some health concerns overall, staying healthy. But at the end of the day, I still expect the Jets to not fall off too much. Just they won't be winning the President's Trophy this year.
Yeah. The one thing I want to add to that for the Predators, especially, is the fact that the Predators have a team that's really, really young. And you hear that, you're like, what? No, they have like Brady Shea. They have Stamkos, Jonathan Marshall, these guys they signed last year. Their roster is not that old. I mean, you still have young guys like Fedor Svechkov, Brady Martin, who's playing first line center. He's a first line center opening night. That's he's a fifth overall pick of this past year.
Luke
The youth movement
Evangelista.
in Nashville. Luke Evangelista, thank you. The youth movement in Nashville is going to be really good this year, and I'm really excited to watch the young guys grow. Yes, there are some question marks on the back end. Their D depth is not the best at all, but they're going to be a sneaky, exciting team this year. I feel like they're going to turn some heads considering the year they had last year. If UC Saros becomes UC Saros that we know, that team's going to make, again, be surprising. Will they make the playoffs? Probably not, but they will be in the hunt until I would say the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Moving over to the Pacific now, I have Vegas in first. I have Vegas with 112 points being the President's Trophy winners. You do lose Alex Pietrangelo on the back end, but you have so much good support. You have White Cloud, you have McNabb, you have Shea Theodore, you have Noah Hannafin. And overall, this decor, yes, you do lose out on a full season of Alex Pietrangelo, who was a really solid defenseman and was, if not a top pair, still a really solid top four defenseman for them. But overall, I think this Vegas team isn't going to lose much sleep. The big thing for them in years past, too, wasn't really their defensive system. It was really the offense and just getting some more goals. That's really what propelled them to win the Stanley Cup a couple years ago over the Florida Panthers. And now when you add a guy like Mitch Marner, I just think Jack Eichel paired with Mitch Marner is
Oh my
absolute
god.
beautiful. You have a healthy Mark Stone too. I Vegas is the team to beat in my personal opinion. I think that they are by far the best team. Edmonton, you bring back Connor McDavid for another 2 years now after this year. Obviously, the Oilers are going to still be the Oilers. Yes, we're going to have concerns about the goaltending. Yes, we're going to have concerns about the defense. But full year Jake Wallman, who why did the Red Wings trade a second round pick and him to offload him a year ago? I
Oh
have no
my
idea.
god.
But anyways, the Oilers should still be good enough, even with the defense and goaltending limitations. I have Vancouver in third. I have LA missing the playoffs at 90 points. Vancouver at 92 points, so very close between the two of them. But I do have Vancouver over LA. I think Pettersson will bounce back. And overall, this Vancouver team with no drama should do much better or just slightly better. And then the LA Kings, Dumoulin, CC replacing Vladislav Gavrikov. What are we doing here? Ken Holland, disaster class. This Kings team is not going to make the playoffs. They looked terrible last night versus Avalanche. That's my hot take, my boldest prediction I'm going with. They're not making the playoffs this year, which is a shame because it's Kopitar's last year. And then I have the Ducks, Seattle, Calgary, and then San Jose making a nice jump to 62 points, which is really nice for them because they had like 50 points last year. So I expect the Sharks to take a jump, but I don't expect the Sharks to be better than the Blackhawks. I think anyone who predicts the Sharks better than the Blackhawks is delusional. I have the Flames finishing worse than the Blackhawks too. I think the Flames are going to blow it up by the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom half of this division is very tough to judge, all things considered, because there are going to be two bottom feeders. Um, However, I feel like there are two teams here that are going to be significantly improved. Let me get into my rankings first. I did actually have Vegas at around 106, 7 points. Don't know. 106 points, give or take, depending on. I saw your eyes. Yeah, that was awesome. 106 points. I feel like they're missing either to be second or third, either behind the Stars or the Avalanche, depending on. However, I think they're going to be in a very upper echelon of players. That first line last year they had was Eichel, Barbashev, and I don't know if it was they interchanged a lot of people in that line. But it was Eichel, Barbashev, pretty much. They ran out most of the time, and that line was spectacular, regardless of who you put on that wing spot. And it might have been Stone. I know Stone wasn't there before he got after he got hurt, and he meshed really well with them. That decor does kind of scare me a little bit. I mean, losing Petrangelo does suck, especially for both the playoffs and the regular season. But it's the Vegas Golden Knights, and the other I would say tough spot is goal. You need Aiden Hill to be Aiden Hill of 2023. If he is that kind of player that you paid $5 million for, then you will have a great year. I think Vegas is going to easily finish number one. Oilers at two. It's a tough spot because I feel like Vegas and Edmonton are two very good teams. I know the Oilers won the division last year. They won the division last year. They won the division last year, right? The Oilers. No, they finished second. Vegas finished first.
I don't believe so
Oilers
because
played
they played the
Kings.
LA Kings in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
Vegas played
The
Minnesota, so Vegas
annual
won.
matchup. Thank you. Yeah. That my as you can see, hockey just started again. Yeah, they did a little refresh. I feel like you're right. Vancouver is going to finish there in this division. Your tandem of Demko and Lankinen when healthy is probably the best tandem in the NHL. You can argue it's Aaron DeSmith. You can argue that it's Wood squared if they both stay healthy because they're both 1A, 1B in Colorado. But
The Woods.
um, the Woods, former Devils, both former Devils, I might add.
Unfortunately, traded Miles Wood,
But
also former Devil, to the Columbus Blue Jackets past
oh my
offseason. So
God,
they
Wood
have now.
Cube would have. Yeah, that Wood Cube, man. How would you let that go? Whatever. Bad contract. Glad they got rid of it. Fourth place is LA. That defense is not good. Watching Dumoulin last year on the Devils, he was half decent, but you don't pay him $4 million. Cody CC, Mike, pink slip. Ken Holland, pink slip. Get him the hell out the front office. I know he just got here, but get him out the front office. Um, that team is again, it's not horrible. I love Quentin Byfield. The Kempe played great last night. That team needs to score so many goals to win. Darcy Kemper's, I don't think he's going to pull up the same year he did last year. He's going to be like
That was my thing too with the calculus.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be 908, 910 save percentage. Not, what is it, 924, 922 last year? Ridiculous. Yeah.
And the thing that makes no sense too is you want to give Brant Clark some more time. And they proceed to sign Cody Ceci, and they have Kyle Burrows, who's currently on IR, but likely is going to get some playing time too, rotating in. I just think that you got to let Brant Clark play. You took him 7th overall a couple years ago. He's 22 years old at this point. His contract expires at the end of this year. You got to find out what you have in him at this point at the NHL level, and you got to actually give him some time and play him a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to be on the top air because you have Doughty there, but to sign Cody Ceci for $4.5 million for 4 years, just I mean, it's Ken Holland. I
Yeah,
don't know why I'm too
it's
surprised, but
horrible.
I will say too, the one team that I really expect to be poor this year, I already said the Flames. I expect the Flames were. I still don't know how the Flames were as good as they were last year. That was just Dustin Wolf being Dustin Wolf, and the Flames just winning a bunch of close games and somehow getting 96 points. There's no.
They were
If the
like they
Devils
won
finish
the
with more
most one
than
goal games. I believe it
85
was.
points,
Yeah.
I will be. I believe so because that's what it felt like. If they somehow finish with more than 85 points, I'll be completely just confused and just befuddled. The Seattle Kraken,
Yeah.
another hot take, both coming out of the Pacific. Kings miss the playoffs. Seattle Kraken are going to be sellers at the trade deadline. I look at this team. Yes, you have Joey Decord. Yes, you have some good pieces, but I just don't see it from them with the offense. I just think that this team is just going to be stagnant. You look at their team overall, and I just expect that we're going to see a lot of these guys on the Seattle Kraken be available at the trade deadline. You have Jaden Schwartz, who's 33. He's likely going to get moved out. Jordan Eberle, he is the captain, but we'll see about that. Tolvanen, Marchment, I think a lot of teams would be interested in. Then you also have Jamie Alexiak, 6'7" or 6'8", I believe, defenseman, massive body, other good guy who potentially might be moved to. So I look at this Kraken team, and I think Joey Decord will keep them somewhat over the water, but Matty Beniers has taken a step back the past couple of years. We haven't seen Shane Wright really take the league by storm. Berkeley Cadden likely is going to get some time in the NHL this year, start off the season with them at least. Is he going to be a catalyst for them? I just don't know where if the offense is really going to take that next step. And it feels like for the Kraken, all they did this past offseason was just add more middle six forwards, bottom six forwards, and it really I don't think is going to amount to anything special for them.
I want to get the one thing before I continue with the rankings. I didn't finish yet. I want to highlight the fact that, first of all, I have the Ducks finishing fifth, Kraken at sixth, Calgary at seven, and I want to highlight one player that's gone under the radar this season. The past season, Yanni Newman. Nyman Newman, when I say his last name.
Nyman.
One of
Nyman.
Nyman. Thank you.
Neiman.
The broadcast is Neyman. Thank you. The broadcast is Newman, and it kind of throws me off. I love whatever his name. The broadcaster for Seattle. He's great. Yanni Neyman and Shane Wright. Thank you. Yes, names in my head. But Yanni Neyman, Shane Wright, Berkeley Catton, Matty Berniers, they're very similar. Call me crazy. They're very similar to Nashville. Where I feel like they're going to be a fun team to watch. They're a very young team to watch. It's not going to be a good year by all means, but they're going to be a exciting young team for the future. One more point I want to add to this division is the fact that San Jose, man, San Jose is going to be like it's the vibes team. It's going to be a vibes team this year, and I'm super excited to watch the growth of guys like Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini. Michael Meese is coming into the league, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're putting in Ryan Reeves over him to start the year. Is
potentially, yeah.
Fuddling team. Why would you do that? Yeah, and then the back end they have, it's old, very old, but you have two guys in Sam Dickinson and Shakir Mukumadulin who are going to be really good defensemen one day. The Sharks youth core is going to be super, super exciting to watch. And yes, they're going to lose a lot of games by a lot of goals, but it's going to be all vibes. It's going to be probably the most exciting team to watch this year as they all grow, which is spectacular.
And Alex, you didn't even mention the Sharks' two big additions over the past month, picking up Carey Price and Ryan Ellis. Oh my gosh. Alex, the Sharks are underrated.
What pickups?
They might make the playoffs, and they still have Logan Couture as well. Yes, exactly. I'm sorry. I'm not buying the Sharks team at all. You have potentially like Alex Wenberg, Jeff Skinner, Adam Gaudette listed in your top six. I know they have the young guys. I know they have Will Smith, year two Macklin Celebrini, Michael Misa. who I didn't want as a Blackhawks fan at all at pick number 3. Don't even get me started on him. I'm so over him. Anton Frondell had a hat trick last week, so we're all on the Frondell bus. But this defense is utter garbage. If
Old,
Sam Dickinson
old,
isn't NHL
old.
ready, I don't. How's this cold? Dmitry Orlov is the only top 4 defenseman on this team right now. Maybe Timothy Liljegren. Outside of that,
Maybe Nick
you
Leddy.
hope
Maybe Nick
Mukladulin.
Leddy if like
Nick Leddy is a awful defenseman, and any Blues fan that's
he's
watching this
awful. Yeah.
podcast can support me on that. But I'm just saying, I just don't think people are saying the Sharks are going to be better than the Blackhawks this year. I just don't see it. And again, if this team is somehow better than the Blackhawks, we have some problems. But anyways, outside of my Sharks dragging the Sharks through the mud, let's move on to the Metro Division, your division. I'll hand it over to you first to give your predictions. Just go 1 through 8. Any other thoughts and analysis, and then I'll give mine.
There's gonna be some stuff and they're gonna be low CD. Yes, I'm a Devils fan through and through. Devils are number 1, but no. Carolina is easily winning this division. They're going to be number 1 by a lot, honestly, and it sucks to say that considering how much pain they caused me. But I do have the Devils at 2. I have a really, really solid kept team. The Capitals at 3. Look at this. I have the Blue Jackets at 4. Rangers at 5. Islanders, sorry, not Islanders. Flyers at 6. Islanders at 7. Penguins at 8. And a couple things. There's 2 teams I want to go through specifically, or 3 teams. First team, Carolina. Man, oh man, oh man. Where do I begin with this headache of a team that's so good to cause me pain?
Ehlers.
Ehlers, Miller. Oh my God. Nikishin coming up too. This team, oh my God. They're if they get past the second round, who knows what's gonna happen? They might get swept into the Eastern Conference Finals, but this team is so good on paper. Probably one of the best, if not the best teams on paper. Second line center, again, that's their biggest issue. They have no second line center. You have Keandre Miller, who, don't get me wrong, is great. $7.5 million, great. We'll see. He's still very young. He's only 26 years old, 25 years old, I believe. He has time to grow. That contract might be great, but right now it's a very hefty price for a guy that did little to nothing on a Rangers team that was very mediocre. Don't get me wrong. That Rangers team, again, very mediocre. But I want to see a lot of growth from him. Personally, I think he does have the room to become an amazing top 4, maybe even top 2 defenseman in the NHL. We'll see what the contract goes. I want to hit on the Blue Jackets. I'm very, very, very optimistic about them this year. I think they're going to be a fringe wildcard team, or they'll make them. I think they're making the playoffs. By the way, let me start by saying that. I think they're making the playoffs as a wildcard team. That's it. The only thing they need is consistent goaltending. If they get consistent goaltending from Jack Greaves and Elvis Muslikins, they're going to be really good. You look at the back end on defense, that defense is spectacular. You have guys, yes, on contracts like David Severson, but you have Ivan Provorov
making $8.5 million for 7 years.
But he's good. He's good. He's going to be
not $8.5 million for 7 years.
Yeah, I know. But he's a guy that you need on a playoff team. He's a guy that's going to bring physicality, grit, determination on a team that is built off of grit and determination. You have young guys. You have your top goal scorers last year were all under the age of 24. Fantilli scored 30 goals last year. If he steps up and scores another 10 this year, scores 40, you have Marchenko stepping up, scoring another 10 maybe. Maybe he scored 28 last year, what it was. You have guys like Voronkov stepping up. You have guys like Monahan, who played a great year last year. Again, last year was a very heartfelt year considering what happened with Johnny Gaudreau. May he rest in peace. And you just saw a team that strung together some amazing wins. Did struggle at some times. You add Charlie Coyle, that's your one big addition, which kind of does suck for you, but I'm very happy with this team, and I can't see them going really far. I would talk about the Devils, but I feel like I can go on them forever, and they're a good team. They're going to be fine. Just stay healthy. The last 2 teams I want to talk about, the Rangers and the Islanders, both New York teams. The Rangers, man. I don't know what to think about them. As a D1 Rangers hater, watching them get shut out last night, or was it last night? Tuesday, October 7th, against
last night.
Pittsburgh, being your home opener against Pittsburgh, who started Artur Silovs. Artur
Alex,
Silovs.
Alex, Alex,
How do you let that
Alex.
in your home opener?
I think we just need to consider that Artur Silovs is winning the Vezina this year.
Goaded, goaded, Vesna winner. More so after that, you get rid of Miller, of course. You get rid of Kreider. You get getting rid of Kreider. It was necessary, but the one thing I liked about him, he was a locker room guy. You get rid of a locker room guy. You bring in JT Miller, of course. He's a great locker room guy. People love him. Vancouver, but in New York, they love him in New York. That's great for them. He's your captain now. Very, very weird choice for captain. I know you played for them previously. He was good for them too. But you expect a guy like Panarin or Trocheck. Trocheck probably is the most shows the most leadership on the team for me. But besides a couple guys on this team, I mean, what? Who are you? Like, what is your team supposed to be? Because your depth is horrendous. Your depth is probably one of the worst depths in all of the Metro. In terms of teams that are supposed to be good, you have Taylor Radish and Yusuf Parsonen, who are both fourth line guys, playing third line and even second line minutes sometimes. That is not a good look for your organization. Adam Fox, he was great. He was great a couple years ago. Last year had a down year. You brought in Scott Morrow as a defensive prospect. You have Gabe Perreault. You have Brian Berard. You're not playing your young guys to watch them grow. Yes, you might want to develop, but you watch the preseason. You watch Leba absolutely light up every team he plays against. He gets a roster spot. I feel like Perreault and Berard should have roster spots on this team, and I think that will be the ultimate downfall of the Rangers, is that their youth movement is not good. There needs to be some young guys on this team that can show that you can see and you can watch and just enjoy and have them grow as talents. That depth is very questionable. And then going to the Islanders, I know I'm going a little bit.
See, Alex.
But
Yeah.
this. Sorry, let me think. I want to say this one point about the Islanders, and you can do your points. Man,
Yeah.
I hope they suck because they need to suck this year. They need to suck. Get rid of everyone. Sell the entire team. Your draft last year was probably the best draft in the NHL in 2025. This past year, sorry. And you have so much young talent. Trading for Callum Ritchie and a first round pick for Brock Nelson? That's an absolute steal of a trade. Your young core is freaking spectacular. Get rid of these contracts that Lou Lamoriello signed. Get rid of Mayfield if you can. Get rid of Engvall if you can, of course. But get rid of these guys that are making way too much money on your team and just rebuild. That's my one wish for the Islanders this year, and I hope they do it because they need a full-scale rebuild. And once they do grow to be that team, man, they're going to be an incredible team in the next 5 years.
The thing I will say about the Rangers before I go through my list of standing predictions is the big thing for them is this is going to be a big bounce back year for a lot of players. You need to assume that JT Miller, removed from Vancouver now, is going to play really well. Now he's the captain, as you mentioned. Mika Zibanejad, better look like the second half Mika Zibanejad, not the first half Mika Zibanejad, who looked like he couldn't play hockey and couldn't skate for the life of him. Alexis Lafreniere had a nice contract given to him, didn't show up the rest of the season, didn't do much, didn't do too much with that contract. Trocheck and Cooley, very reliable. I love Will Cooley. He had
I forgot to mention Will Cooley, spectacular.
Yeah, actually providing some offensive depth. And yeah, you do mention the depth of the Rangers being a problem, and that certainly is a little bit concerned. I will say that when we talk about guys like Berard and Perreault not getting time yet, I just have to say, one, when have the Rangers ever successfully developed a player? The last guy might have been Mika Zibanejad way back in the early 2010s. And second, you hired, and for this Rangers team, Mike Sullivan was the right hire, But if you're expecting the Rangers to play any prospects in a Mike Sullivan coached team, that's just not happening. Mike Sullivan does not give
I
two
know.
poops about any prospect. He will bury them at any chance he gets. So this is a team that's going to be very interesting to watch. I have the Rangers at third. I have the Canes at first. They already had a solid year last year. They pick up Ehlers. They're going to have Nikishin for a full year, who I'm a big fan of. The big thing, too, is, I mean, you mentioned Keandre Miller. Keandre Miller had a really good start with the Rangers, but really fell off hard. Last year, him and Ryan Lindgren were essentially traffic cones for the Rangers last year. So he has a fresh start. The Hurricane system is a solid defensive system that I think will help at least shore up Miller's play so he can be a little more aggressive offensively, which he is. He's a two-way defenseman, but can produce offensively. So I do think that their overall system will allow him to kind of be the guy that the Rangers envisioned him being, or at least what we saw flashes of early in his career. I have your New Jersey Devils finishing second. Again, I'm not going to say too much for them. We both agree. The big thing for the Devils is going to be staying healthy. If they get injured, the Devils will still likely make the playoffs, but obviously we'll have a situation like last year where they were kind of just a walking corpse into the playoffs, where it was a pretty easy slam dunk that they were going to miss. As mentioned, Rangers at third. I have the Washington Capitals, wildcard 2 with 93 points. Talked about the Capitals in a video that went up, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. But this team everything went right for them last year. Their goaltending looked fantastic. Logan Thompson had a great first half of the year, really fell off. The second half of the year didn't put up the same numbers as we saw after he got that contract extension. And we had Tom Wilson, even Ovechkin, Dylan Strome, all their top producers shooting well over their average shooting percentage throughout their entire career. Protas doubled his shooting percentage, although I expect Protas to be more of the player we saw last year than the player we had seen a few years prior. But I just expect this Capitals team to fall back down to earth with still making the playoffs. The Blue Jackets, you mentioned, I have them just missing the playoffs at 90 points, and then I have the Islanders, Flyers, and Penguins in the basement of the Metropolitan Division. This will be interesting. It'll be cool. A lot of people are going to be talking about Sidney Crosby if he gets traded, etc. I just can't imagine that Sidney Crosby's going to get traded at any point this year.
Yeah, I feel like with the entire situation with Pittsburgh, what I say about the Islanders, I hope Pittsburgh does the same. So get rid of the entire team, man. Yeah, I know Kyle Dubas is known for being a player's guy. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be your little buddy here in the GM box, but you can't be doing players right when you're this low. You have to be more cutthroat. You have to realize cut your losses and be like, hey, I need to rebuild. I need to get rid of guys like Brian Rush, Rickard Raquel. I need to see if somehow, some way, someone want to take this Eric Carlson contract again and get rid of all this dead weight that you don't need. Jari being
if anything,
on contract for. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, the big thing for me is just they should have made these trades already. You should have traded
Last
Brian
year,
Russ
yeah.
already. You should have traded Ricardo, not last, at least this past offseason, just because both those Ricardo Kell, that was he's at his peak value. This past offseason was his peak value. He's only going to go down from there. I cannot expect him to be close to 70 points this season. Brian Russ has been very injury prone the past couple of years. Trade them while the value's still high, and then Eric Carlson is not a part of that Penguins score. Letang, Malkin, and Crosby are the only guys on the Penguins who should be able to dictate whether or not they stick around. Everyone else, like Carlson, Rust, and Raquel, you should already be moving at this point and trying to get younger. You don't need to just do fire sale and just collect draft picks like we saw with the Blackhawks when they blew it up. But at least try to get some young pieces in return, something like that. I really do think it's going to benefit the Penguins. And we talk about the Islanders. Bo Horvat, if you were to get potentially put on the trade block, the Carolina Hurricanes would be all over that. The Montreal Canadiens, who we'll talk about shortly, are going to be all over that. There's a lot of teams that could really use a second line center. And if Bo Horvat hits the trade block, I think a lot of teams are going to be all over that. And you mentioned the Jackets. I'll just hit on the one thing too. Yes, Jack Reeves was a legendary player down the stretch for the Blue Jackets, helping them almost make the playoffs. They just barely missed. But I'm not expecting him to do that again for a full season, and I don't expect Elvis Merzlikins. We haven't seen Elvis Merzlikins play solid goaltending in at least 4 years at this point. I've given up on him
I think
as well. So
since the lockout, no, since the lockdown, since COVID, I think
yeah,
the 1 year he had in 2019, 2020 was probably the best year of his career. He
him and
comes into
Corpusalo
2021, plays
were
decent.
an elite
Yeah.
duo that year, and then ever since then, it's just been right down into the gutter. All right,
The
moving
Atlantic Division
into
staring me in the face.
moving now into the Atlantic Division, which is staring Alex in the face right now. I'll go first. I have Tampa in first, and I actually didn't change this yet, so I'm kind of doing this a little bit on the fly. I originally had Florida in second. Obviously, used Barkov for the year, and you lose Matthew Tkachuk until December. We already knew about Tkachuk, but Barkov really brutal injury, and not even brutal in the sense that that was like a really bad injury, gruesome injury. It was just a practice. It looked like a harmless play, and now he's likely going to be missing all the entire regular season. Potentially could come back for the playoffs, guys. They don't get his full salary cap. Don't worry. We're good. The LTIR loophole's been fixed
Cap
right now.
circumvention. Cap
Everyone,
circumvention. Yeah.
everyone, calm down. Put your pitchforks away. But anyways, I had Florida in second. Now I'm gonna have Florida as a wild card team. So right now I have Tampa in first, Toronto in second. You lose Benchwarmer, but I think you pick up Michelli. You pick up some other guys who can kind of do some patchwork for the Maple Leafs, and they're still good enough. You still have Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, so they'll still make the playoffs this year. Then I have Ottawa finishing third in the Atlantic. I expect them to take another step. Out of them, Buffalo, Detroit, someone was going to be the team that finally made the playoffs, and it was the Ottawa Senators this year. Then I have Florida making the playoffs as the wild card two. Actually, I'm going to have the Florida Panthers kicking out the Capitals. I said the Capitals wild card two. Now I have the Senators, and then Florida wild card one, Caps wild card two. Boston and the Habs just miss out. The Canadians after the Four Nations face-off went on a crazy tear. Nick Suzuki was over a point per game player. I love Nick Suzuki. He's a point per game player, but he's not. He and the Canadians were not as good as they were last year. I know they pick up Dobson. I know they're gonna have a full year of Ivan Demidov, but I just don't think the Canadians are going to be a playoff team this year. They need to fix that second line center position really badly. Then Buffalo and Detroit just trailing behind. Detroit is an enigma in my mind. I'll just keep it simple. I don't really know what Detroit is, and I have them at 85 points, Buffalo at 87 points. I have them close to the wild card two spot with the Capitals at 93, but they're just kind of in that mushy middle. I don't really know how to feel about them unless one of them really proves me wrong in a good way.
All right. This division has given me a lot of headaches because everyone thought Florida was going to finish first. That team is spectacular, and then Barkov gets hurt, and then you see what happens against Tip and the preseason. You're like, damn, this team is all feist. I don't know if that's going to be good for them, considering that they need everyone to be healthy at all times. In saying that, I have Toronto first, with them being the second best team in all the Eastern Conference behind Carolina. I have the Lightning second. I have the Senators third. I have the Panthers fourth. They're the wild card team. I think them and Columbus will be the wild card teams. I have, ready for this? I have the Sabres fifth, the Canadiens sixth, the Bruins seventh, and then the Red Wings eighth. A couple teams I want to talk upon. Buffalo, man. When are you going to be good? When are you going to be good, man? Your team on paper is insanely well put together, but it's just something that is agonizing. Is it coaching? Is it Kevin Adams? Is it Terry Pagula? What is it? This team is supposed to be half decent, and it's not. It's going like it's not.
Alex, I know we've talked
After
about
that
this off
run.
on the side, but Kesselring, I think the hope is that he's able to unlock Owen Power's full potential. And if that's the case, then I think this Buffalo team, the big thing is Kesselring to unlock Owen Power, which has been the big thing that a lot of people talked about this past offseason when they made that trade, trading Paterka for Kesselring. And the big thing, too, is going to be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Devin Levi. Can one of them be the number one franchise goalie for the Sabres? Devin Levi still very young, not giving up on him. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen starting to get a little older, although he's like 3 years older than me, so it's kind of crazy for me to be like, he's an unk, he's washed, he's not good, which, well, I'm 23. I'm like, okay. But anyways, point is, we need to see one of those two guys take that next step, and we need to see Owen Power get his potential fully unlocked as the first overall pick that was selected 4 years ago for them to have success this
Yeah,
year.
and
Because
then
outside of that, you look at the
yeah,
Sabres on paper, this is a team that should be competing for a playoff spot at the very least.
yeah. I mean, this division is really weird with players. I mean, I feel like a team like Ottawa could easily finish second over Tampa, considering again Hagel's out. I don't know how long Hagel's out for. I don't know. I didn't see any update on his injury status. I know guys like Nick Paul are out on IR. I mean, Hedman's hurt. Cernak is hurt. There are injuries on this team that are on this Tampa team that are like maybe a team like Ottawa can step up. You have Allmark in the net. Maybe he can put up as the numbers. You've traded for guys like Dylan Cousins, who can easily let up 30 goals and put up
They
seven
get traded
points.
off the Sabres bump.
Seriously, that Ottawa team, this can be so fun to watch this year. Jake Sanderson is probably the second best contract in the NHL right now, behind Jack Hughes, of course. You have guys like Brady Tkachuk who are going to again grow even more. I think he's going to be better than he was last year. You have a young team that's built with freaking grit, strength. They're going to go down on you. Pause. They're going to quite literally beat you up. They're going to beat you up, and they're going to have fun doing it. This Ottawa team is going to be incredibly good this year, and I can't wait to watch them. They went from a team that was I'm gonna be good. I'm not gonna be good. It's a teetering team to a team that has a legitimate shot at competing for first in the division with teams like the Maple Leafs and the Lightning. I wouldn't say they're going to finish first, which is a very long shot, but they're going to be very competitive this year, and I think they're going to be a very tough team to play in the playoffs, and it's going to be very exciting to watch them play.
I think the big thing too for the Senators is they're the most motivated team to win the division. Florida, even if Florida had a healthy Barkov and healthy Kachuk, or even just a healthy Barkov, we've seen in the past teams when they win a couple Stanley Cups. We saw with the Blackhawks when they were the dynasty in the dynasty days, where it's like, well, we don't need to be the best team in the NHL. We just need, as long as you're putting in our B game, we're gonna win. We can turn the switch on whenever, and it's just a matter of okay, as long as we're just gonna coast through the regular season, no one get injured, everyone be okay, and then you make the lesson like, okay, switch turns on, we're going. We're one of the best teams in the NHL, etc. And that obviously burned them in 2016, 2017. But for a team like Tampa and Florida, obviously Florida is just get by. Right now, the big thing is just hope that Barkov beats his recovery time, Kachuk gets healthy, and they're like, we're fine. We have Reinhart, we have Martian, we have all these pieces. They'll carry the weight right now. Bobrovsky has been fantastic the past couple of years. We're good. We can handle things. Our defense is solid still with Seth Jones out for a full year. We're good enough. Tampa is in the same boat where it's okay, we're going to make the playoffs this year. No one have any massive injuries. Let's just move along. We'll make the playoffs. So you talk about their depth all we want, but and then you have Vasilevsky. You're going to want to make the playoffs. Toronto, we know Toronto does not care about the regular season anymore. It's all about the playoffs at the end of the day. Even losing Mitch Marner, they're still going to make the playoffs. So out of all these teams, Ottawa is definitely the most motivated team to be like, we're here now. We're here to stay. We want to put our footprint right on the Atlantic Division, win the division. So if the Senators wound up winning the division, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if I don't think Boston will win the division, but I do think Boston's going to be very competitive this year. Lindholm, they
Yeah,
lost. Hampus Lindholm, they lost in November for the entire season. McAvoy, they lost after 4 Nations. Swayman didn't get a full training camp. So I expect Boston to bounce back just under the sense of, okay, now you have your top pair healthy again. And both of them have said they feel really good now. And Swayman had a full training camp. So I think out of all the divisions, I know you mentioned the Central being pretty close and compact. Really, to me, the Atlantic Division is kind of a hodgepodge of teams where I really don't feel I feel good about my predictions, but if someone told me, "Oh yeah, Boston makes the playoffs, the Florida Panthers just miss out, the Tampa Bay Lightning somehow fall out of it," I wouldn't be completely surprised at that. I think all 8 teams in this division are capable of making the playoffs. I don't know how many of them I feel good about winning the Stanley Cup, but I look at these 8 teams and say, if I saw them in the Stanley Cup playoffs in April, I wouldn't be surprised. I think some of the teams need some more things to go their way, like the
yeah,
Canadians, Sabres,
yeah.
and Red Wings, but I wouldn't be shocked.
The one team, like the last team I kind of want to talk about in this division, it's very similar to Buffalo. It's Detroit. I had Detroit finishing last, and again, like you said, they're not going to. It's going to be a very competitive division. Any team has a chance to win the playoffs. I feel like Detroit's that one team where it's like, are you really going to make the playoffs if you think you're going to have a good year? I don't think so. I feel like this Detroit team is, sad. I mean, you have great pieces like Larkin, DeBrincat, Moritz Sider, but you trade for a guy like John Gibson, where the ultimate question is, like you said to me in person, is he a good goalie? Is he a bad goalie, or is it just Anaheim? Because Anaheim was a bad team last year, a couple years ago. Is it just Anaheim, or is he just a bad goalie? I mean, it's kind of weird to say this, but you watch some of these Anaheim games and you see the little effort he's showing. I think he just gave up in Anaheim. He just didn't want to be there. You have guys like Dosal now who are going to carry his team, but I think Gibson gave up in Anaheim, and he comes to this Detroit team who is an old team. You have a lot of young pieces. Your defensive core is old. Your forward core is getting older. I mean, it's a young team. You have young guys like Casper, Raymond, and Pelika. Your young core is spectacular. If these young guys take a step up, I could see them finishing fifth. I could see them
And
finishing
that's the
fourth for crying
catalyst.
out loud.
That's the catalyst for them. You look at their roster. You have Brandon Nygaard, who kicked down the door, said, I want an NHL roster spot. Emmett Finney, who just went crazy against the Chicago Blackhawks in a preseason game. It was actually wild. I was like, who is this guy? I was not familiar with their game. He had knocked down the door. Marco Casper, we saw some flashes last year from him. Does he take this next step up? We're waiting for Simon Edvinsson to take that next step to be one of the top defensemen in the NHL. Axel Sandin Pelika, same situation, kicked down the door, said, you know what, I'm here. I'm making the NHL roster. So the Red Wings, it's going to come down to, can the young guys produce enough and just take the league by storm to where it leads the Red Wings to the playoffs? Are we going to see those young guys really become true contributors this year? And if that happens, I think we're both in agreement that this team was going to be a lot better.
Let me add to that. I wouldn't say not only produce, I would say lead this team. You need your young guys to be the catalyst to your playoff rush. You need these young guys like Casper. Casper had a so-so year last year compared to the standards that other rookies had. But if Casper steps up, if Edvinsson steps up, if Sandin Pelika decides to be a Calder candidate this year, if these guys decide to put up ginormous numbers in their rookie years, in their young careers, then this guy's lit for them. I mean, they could be a really good team. Steve Eisenman knows how to draft. He just can't build a team around his draft picks. He overpays, he overvalues players, and he thinks that he's a endless money pit. Here's money to guys that don't deserve money. If these guys that are on contract right now for longer term deals have to live up to their contracts. Again, the Red Wings are a really weird team to me. I'm finishing eighth, but everything can change if these young guys step up.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap up the show, I think first off, we were talking about NHL award predictions. I think we could do that. Save that for another edition. So we'll just do the Stanley Cup playoff predictions and who your championship winner is. I have the Las Vegas Golden Knights. To the league's disgrin. Yes, we all don't like the Florida Panthers, but you know who we also don't like? The Vegas Golden Knights. I like this Vegas Golden Knights team, and I just say, you know what? Alex Pietrangelo is going to say, you know what? I'm actually okay. I'm healthy. The league's going to say, you know what? We'll repeal. You're good to play. We're fine with it. And the Vegas Golden Knights will win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, the Pietrangelo part won't happen, but I do think Vegas is the best team in the NHL this year, and I have them beating the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they finally get over the hump this year. They have to do it at some point. You have to imagine. And so I have Vegas over Carolina as my Stanley Cup final prediction.
I think we're in agreement here. I feel like the Western Conference is going to be a very strong conference this year, and it's going to be the Western Conference for the next 2 or 3 years if these Eastern Conference teams finally want to step up and do something about it. We'll see. Again, the Eastern Conference has won the last couple of years. Yes, you're wrong. It's Florida, but you see these Western teams growing so much, and these Eastern teams are just diminishing, getting worse almost, or not getting worse, but not getting better as the same speed as the Western Conference teams. Like,
You have less contenders. I look at the West and
nice.
I say
Yes, thank you.
Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, and if you want Winnipeg, I'll put 4.5 because their center depth concerns me, especially, and
Yeah,
they also lost Ehlers on the wing. So 4.5 teams that I feel really good about as contenders. You look over at the East. You have
me
Carolina.
too.
You really have Carolina and New Jersey. I think those are the two teams that I feel the most confident, and even the Devils is can they finally stay healthy for once? But outside of that, I think Tampa's on the downturn. Florida's hurt. Toronto, I think, is on the downturn. If Ottawa balls out this year, then I guess Ottawa enters that conversation. But right now, I think it's just the East is two teams, which is crazy because a few years ago it was Florida, Boston, Tampa, Toronto, four teams in just the Atlantic Division, and you have the Rangers when they were playing really well, the Devils when they took that big step into playoff contention, the Carolina Hurricanes, you had Washington Capitals with Prime Ovi, the Pittsburgh Penguins were still losing in the first round, but they were still sneaking around. So I agree. I think that the
Yeah.
league we've seen a shift from the East now being the best to now the West is the best.
All right, and my prediction for the Cup this year, I finally think it's gonna happen. Edmonton will Canada first. Canada wins the Stanley Cup because Edmonton's winning the Cup this year. I think they're gonna win it over the Maple Leafs. I think it's gonna be an All Canada final this year. The Maple Leafs have to take a step this year. They have to show that Mitch Marner was kind of a catastrophic player for them in the playoffs. But I feel like a Canadian team finally takes a step this year. Edmonton is going to be on an all-time high in terms of re-signing McDavid. You have Matthias Ekholm re-signing, Jake Holmes. All these guys are just again sign the contract. You're in the first year contract fatigue, where it's like, oh, I have all the money in the world now. But I feel like this team is gonna grow so much more because they see that McDavid is taking less and he wants to win. I think that's going to feed off a lot on these players. And I can easily see a team like Edmonton who has some depth concerns, didn't really sign anyone in the offseason, but I feel like this team will rally around McDavid and Draisaitl, unlike anything we've seen amongst any other team. And I think it's finally going back to Canada this year.
All I know is the last time Stan Bowen was in one of these I have to win now situations, he gave Brent Seabrook a 7-by-7 essentially, or 7-by-8, and then proceeded to trade Artemi Panarin for Brandon Saad. So we'll see if this go around goes better for Stan Bowman and if he can wind up winning a Stanley Cup too. This is like two evils here. You have the Oilers, you have Stan Bowman as the GM. No one's gonna like that. And you have Vegas winning the Stanley Cup. No one's gonna like that. So I think we might be in the end times of NHL teams right now because a lot of these teams we have winning, whereas the top teams a lot of people don't like. But that's very typical. No one liked the Blackhawks when they were really good. No one liked the Penguins when they were really good. Although a lot of people like Sidney Crosby. So we'll see what winds up happening. But Alex, always a pleasure talking to you on this podcast. Always a pleasure talking to you in general. So thank you for coming on. Love talking hockey and just love doing these NHL prediction videos. So it's been a pleasure. I believe you're still doing Varts cards, I believe, on Instagram.
I've been trying to grow a little. I've been trying to go at it a little bit more. I've kind of taken a little bit of hiatus because money is expensive for the cards, but also because I'm almost done with school, so I'm almost graduating. I'm almost out of college. It's the real world, which is kind of scary, but I'm gonna be going back on that a little bit more. I have some cards I'm gonna grade and get posted on my account, so we'll see if it grows. But thank you for having me on as always. It's a pleasure talking to you. No matter how bad the Blackhawks are, no matter how bad the Yankees are, we're always going to suffer somehow together.
Anyways, thank you for coming on again. Check him out at Varts Cards as well for any posting that he might be doing in the coming weeks. And as always, for Alex, for Raffi, we hope you enjoyed this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports podcast. Have a good one. Go Devils, go Blackhawks, and we'll see what ends up happening in April when all of our takes somehow look like the worst thing ever. So that'll do it.
And
have a good one.
the Yankees
and
lose.
see you soon.